Cruising down the street, lights is shining bright. Got Bobo and Cramer, and they're bringing the heat tonight. Talking New York sports, you know what I mean. Big boys and the kings of the sea. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Bobo and Cramer, yeah, the pimps are loud. Taking on the world, and they're never gonna stop. With the New York grit, they're rising to the top. From the Mets to the Knicks, they got all the scoop, pouring out the passion, yeah, they're leading the truth. Every episode party, grab your friends and cheer. In this podcast palace, we got the atmosphere. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Bobo and Cramer, yeah, the sound of the loud. Taking on the world, and they're never gonna stop. With the New York grit, rising to the top. Get loud. Tune in, turn it up, feel electric sound. With every single word, we never gonna frown. From the Midline Giants to the Madison Square, Bobo and Cramer, yeah, this man been getting it out. Whoa, whoa, Bobo and Cramer, yeah, the sound the loud. Taking on the world, and they're never gonna stop. With the New York grit, they're rising to the top. Get loud. Yeah, the best in the house is where the legends play. Bobo and Cramer, leading the way. Breaking plastics loud, shout it out loud. In the best in the house, we're rocking the town. In the best in the house, we're rocking the town. In the best in the house, we're rocking the town. In the best in the house, we're rocking the town.
And that's right, everybody. Welcome back once again to another edition of the Best Seat in the House podcast. As always, I'm your host, Rob Kramer, joined by my co-host and coughing co-host, Daniel Bobo Curlin. Dan, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good. I have to say, bro, you know who else is upset? Back-to-back games got rained out? My mom.
Yeah, to quote the great muscle man, yeah, definitely everybody, including your mom, is very upset about how that went down. We got a lot to get into today, as we're going to have to get something off our mind and off our chest to the commissioner of Major League Baseball. We also got the Yankees in a situation where they can clinch tonight against the Orioles at Yankee Stadium. Not to mention our two football teams having a pretty damn good weekend for themselves too. And let's not forget, pretty impressive victory for the New York Rangers against the Islanders last night at Madison Square Garden in preseason. We'll get into all that shortly. But Dan, just as you said, let's start with the New York Metropolitans, as they had a pretty damn good weekend against the Philadelphia Phillies in the final series of the year at Citi Field. Regular season, that is, at least we hope. The Mets took 3 out of 4 from the Phillies in big fashion. They needed to. And they were able to keep the distance at that time between them and the Braves at 2 games. But unfortunately, they would go out and drop the opener in Atlanta in pretty lame fashion last night, 5-2. They really could have made it easier on themselves had they won last night with what we know now. So if you are in the dark and you're not sure why our frustration with Rob Manfred is bubbling to the surface right now, this is because, as we mentioned, the Mets currently right now lead the Braves by 1 game in the wild card. Not technically, it's not for the last spot because the Diamondbacks are mixed in there right now. So there is a scenario where the Mets and the Braves can both get in the playoffs and the Diamondbacks could fall out. But this is why I wanted to say the worst commissioner in sports, Rob Manfred, rained out the next 2 games in Atlanta when everyone knew this was coming since the weekend. Why have I, a guy who has really no skin in the game from a practical standpoint outside of just rooting for the Mets, I've been watching the weather for Atlanta since at least Saturday when people started talking about this incoming storm and how it's a tropical storm and it could be a hurricane. and it's making landfall in Florida. And it's going to work its way up the coast. So why have I known that since Saturday? And the commissioner of Major League Baseball decided that 5 o'clock in the afternoon during the series, right before Game 2, they decide to rain out the next 2 games. Why do we not have a proactive, regime in Major League Baseball right now where anybody with a brain knew they were not playing on Wednesday night and Thursday night? So you know what you could have done? They had you could have very easily had a doubleheader yesterday, and the Mets and the Braves both had a mutual day off on Monday. So you could have played this whole series in 2 days on Monday and Tuesday before the rain even got here. Now we're sitting here and keeping our fingers crossed, hoping everything breaks the right way over the next couple of days. Otherwise, the Mets and the Braves are going to have to play a doubleheader on Monday. And, luckily that'll only be played if it's necessary. Maybe some things will break the Mets' way and they'll clinch prior to that. But if the Mets and the Braves are both still alive, and this is going to play any role in determining who makes the playoffs, who goes home, what seed they are, they'll be playing it all right. And then you'll have to play a doubleheader on Monday and start a playoff series on Tuesday. So you're going to kill your bullpen. You're going to kill your rotation, and then you have to go into a short 3-game series that determines your entire season to see if you move on to the next round. Dan, I cannot comprehend how Major League Baseball put themselves in this situation. How is it that the NFL is able to move games like that at the, if there's any, situation that arises like this, the NFL who, fits 80,000 people into their stadiums, how do they have a contingency plan lined up for stuff like this, but Major League Baseball doesn't? I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it. It's just complete hypocrisy from Robert Manfred, the worst commissioner in the history of baseball. I've seen this many times done before with neutral site games when they needed to move games. I've seen it in the past. We saw it happen when Hurricane Harvey happened. We saw it happen. I think there was a situation where Tampa had to play 2 games against the Yankees because of weather in Tampa. They had to play their series against the Yankees, and they used Citi Field as a neutral site of all places. So they figured it out. There've been a couple of other instances where it's happened where they've had to use neutral site games, and so it has happened. Has happened before. They can do it again if they need to. I don't get Robert Manfred. Even the manager of the Braves in this interview, he said it's not it can't be done. It's been done.
Exactly, and he said you're 100% right about that. The manager of the Braves, Snitker, came out, and he tried to downplay how poorly executed and poorly planned for this was by not only the Atlanta Braves but Major League Baseball. And you can't blame the Braves too much because Major League Baseball decides it. So, the Braves can't kind of, as much as I want to knock the Braves, you can't, because the only 2 teams that get screwed out of this right now are the Mets and the Braves. We're both in the same boat right now where, you pretty much have to win out. You don't have to win out because they could get lucky and the Diamondbacks could have a rough weekend and both teams could benefit from that. But either way, if everything kind of goes the way you expect it to, and it's going to be, almost par for the course, the Mets and the Braves are going to be playing on Monday. I keep my fingers crossed. I say my prayers to God, and I hope that's not going to be the case. But look, we're Met fans. We all know that we kind of live in a world of Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So I'm kind of expecting to play that doubleheader on Monday. I'm expecting it to mean something, and I'm just not. I'm very, very angry about it because it puts the Mets and the Braves both in a terrible situation. Now having to go into, a potential or definite season, ending series where your entire season is on the line in a 3-game series. In this wild card round on the road, by the way, I can't wrap my head around how stupid this is and how it hurts the Mets and the Braves more than anybody else.
Yeah, exactly. And it just makes and remember how I said I was telling you about the ticket sale and stuff. I'm getting the access to the pre-sale. That I was telling you want to get proceeds because I just hope it doesn't turn into a situation where I'm waiting on a refund.
Yeah, and you can't blame the Mets, even though we've had our gripes with them at times this year. But hey, look, for the situation they're in right now, David Stearns and Steve Cohen, you got to give him credit. My only thought would be, gee, I wonder where this team would be right now if they had a off season that would have been more appreciated by fans like you and I, because most of the guys on the team, have been here. So it's just really interesting. Although you have to say, guys like Manea, guys like Harrison Bader, and guys like just the glue guys they've had, Iglesias, but then again, he wasn't even added until May. So it's just interesting the way things really break out. You got to give the Mets credit for where they are right now, and now we shift our attention because now there aren't going to be games played until Friday for the Mets now. So I guess they're kind of catching a break where they get a couple of days, a breather, and you know what? To be honest, it does give Francisco Lindor a couple of extra days to get ready. Now, if you're wondering too, and you didn't watch the game last night, Lindor actually did appear in the on-deck circle at one point. So Francisco Lindor, if the Mets had a threat and potential tying run or to make it close, the Mets were going to use Lindor last night. So that's a big step in the right direction. And I think getting these next 2 days off to kind of get that back under control really works in the Mets' favor in that respect, where at least now your MVP candidate is going to be ready to go for these last 3 games against Milwaukee in the regular season. Potentially last 3, depending on what happens with the Braves and everything on Monday. But now you put yourself in a situation where your MVP candidate should be ready to come back to the lineup on Friday night.
Yeah, exactly. And I just hope the Mets put themselves in a situation where we can wrap this up this weekend. If it goes down to Monday, by all means, please, for once, have us victorious in this situation. I've been through this so many times with Met fans where we just had to where we're in a situation where we had to win, where we set ourselves up in a situation where we were 1 win and we end up 1 win short of it. It's the worst feeling. I don't like watching the playoffs those years we came up just so close, 1 win short, and then we didn't do that. I didn't watch the playoffs in 2007. I didn't watch the playoffs in 2008. That's how horrible it felt after that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. It puts it puts a stink on it for the fans that just got knocked out. Even I remember in 1998, me and you've talked about that one before, where all they had to do was win one of the last 5 against the Braves, and they lost all 5. Yes, it was a 5-game series. There was a rain makeout or makeup in one of those. So, it was very interesting. And, same thing with the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, the Mets could get lucky in this situation now, because if you really think about it, this series doesn't mean anything for the Milwaukee Brewers. The Milwaukee Brewers have already clinched their division. They're division champions. They've been division champions for a while now. They're one of the first teams to clinch. So the Brewers don't have anything to really worry about. So you could see them resting guys and maybe not just being as sharp as you would expect the division champion to be. So that is one thing that could play in the Mets' favor, where this weekend, the Brewers kind of are gliding into the postseason, and the Mets are going to be fighting tooth and nail to win every game, because they're going to need every game to avoid. You're going to have to, in my opinion, if the Mets don't win 2 out of 3 this weekend, they'll be playing on Monday, and that's if they're lucky.
Yeah, exactly. The Mets need to take 2 out of 3 this weekend. They need to, by all means, win Friday, win Saturday, make this a little easier.
Yeah, hey, that would be great. You're going to Sunday, not even have to worry about it, right?
Yeah, Yeah, that would be so freaking great. Just not have to worry about it. Just do that. Take care of it. We're in the playoffs. Don't have to worry about Monday. I'm not gonna be stressed like Monday because I can tell you, Monday's already bad enough. All right? Do I need to have that headache on a Monday like that? Our entire season like that? It's already
Sounds like
exciting
somebody has
enough.
a case of the Mondays, Dan.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, that would be the worst case of the Mondays ever if it came down to that and it turned out south. I don't want to know what that feels like.
Hey, you're right. You're right.
I've gone through this enough. I don't want to deal with every fucking Yankee fan trolling us. 'Cause that's all it is. Look at us, 27 championships. Look at us, 27 champions. How many you got? 2. Fuck that. I gotta say one thing about you Yankee fans. Take your 27 championships, shine them up real nice, and shove it up your candy apple ass.
Except for our boy Barron, right?
Yeah, exactly. Except for you from a bear, all right. I'm just making fun of these. Just making fun of these Yankee fans that are just these idiots. You know what I'm talking about, right? Those
Exactly.
idiots that do those ones that do nothing about bragging about 27 championships.
Yeah. But Dan, you know what though? The situation the Mets are in right now, we can't even think about the Yankees and their fans and everything. We got to have tunnel vision on winning 2 out of 3 in Milwaukee because, I mean, hey, if the Mets win 2 out of 3 against Milwaukee and the Braves lose 2 out of 3, it's over. You don't got to worry about it. See you later, Braves. Their season's done. Mets are moving on. No doubleheader on Monday. Crisis avoided.
Yep.
Now, we just got to think positive, right?
Yeah. We just gotta think positive. Also, I gotta say something. There is one of our biggest supporters. One of our biggest supporters, Bree, who I know would love to go and just go with every Braves fan she has to deal with in Braves territory. Like she would just love to be able to just blast that OMG song everywhere. Just to really give it to
Yeah.
Braves fans.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
And if you watch this, I recommend you also doing that using a Bluetooth speaker to blast that song.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
If you're a Mets fan living in a part of the country where you guys deal with Braves fans, if the
Hey
Mets
Dan, see if
somehow,
you could fix your
oh,
thing. It's something cut out.
oh, all right, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a little better.
All right, here's a word of advice to anyone that's a Mets fan living in an area where you got to deal with a lot of Braves fans. Hopefully once the Mets wrap this whole thing up and are in the playoffs, you take your phone, maybe you bring a Bluetooth speaker with you, and have that song OMG blasting as loud as possible, and use the Bluetooth speaker to get the max volume you can on that song.
Yeah, man, you're 100% right. So blast the OMG. Let's get ready because it's going to be an OMG next couple of days for the Mets. And it could be an OMG night for the Yankees tonight out at Yankee Stadium, Dan, as the Yankees had a chance to clinch the AL East last night and weren't able to get the job done. The Orioles came out fighting. Let's not forget the Orioles are just a few games behind the Yankees for the best record in the American League. And winning the game last night, they cut the division lead a little bit shorter. But if the Yankees win the game tonight, it's all over. And the Yankees will win yet another American League East crown. It's been a long time coming for this Yankee team this year. It's been a weird season for them. But, hey, they're about to edge out the Orioles. And if they could get the job done right now behind this tough pitching matchup, and let's not forget, Marcus Stroman, speaking of up and down, he's kind of epitomized the Yankees season as he started off so good for them. I think at one point he was 7-3 and he had an ERA under 3. And then in typical Marcus Stroman fashion, he took a big nosedive, just like me and you said. Me and you as Met fans, we've seen this guy's act before. And he took a big nosedive in the second half of the season. He has not been nearly as effective as he was early on. 10-8 with a 4.04 ERA. The Yankees are going to need him to come up in the biggest moment of the year so far tonight against the Orioles, and Zach Eflin, the former Tampa Bay Ray, the former Philadelphia Philly, who really hit his stride this year, 10-9 with a 3.5 ERA. People don't think much of Eflin, but he's a pretty good middle of the rotation starter that, if you sleep on this guy, he could put up zeros real quick. So the Yankees really got to try to get to him early, and that's going to be the name of the game tonight, giving Marcus Stroman a lead and hoping he runs with it, right?
Yeah, exactly. It got a home run in a game that I feel like it could easily be a 5-3 score, it looks like.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, Dan, I just took a look at the scoreboard, and it is not going good for Marcus Stroman and the Yankees. Currently down 3-0. Stroman allowed 3 runs in the first inning. I know he allowed, I think the first 3 to 4 guys to get on base. So things were not looking too good for Marcus Stroman in the biggest start of the year for the Yankees right now. You needed Stroman to go out there and put the Yankees in a good position, and he goes out there and immediately puts you in an 0-3 hole. That is just terrible.
Yeah, exactly. It's not looking good again. It's like a lot of Yankee fans are probably having that. Here we go again, and I don't know. I just imagine right now because knowing our good buddy Eastside Dave, who's probably one of the biggest Yankee fans I know, and this is just my image. I'm sorry, Dave, but this is just the image I have in Dave in my head watching a Yankee game. Remember that character in Animaniacs? Remember that little episode, that guy Autobot's crotch and stiff? I don't know what they was like a German stereotype. That's the way the
professor guy, yeah,
the professor guy. Remember he's pulling his hair, and each time he's getting angry, he's pulling another piece of his hair, or that. Remember that scene in The Simpsons when Homer's flashbacking about when Marge had gave birth to Maggie. How he kept saying how every time he got word that his wife was pregnant, he pulled a piece of his hair out, and that's how he got bald. It's kind of, I imagine it's kind of like that with the Eastside Dave, and I only imagine if he did that, I think.
I think you're right. You're right, man. He better watch out, or he's going to lose all of his ginger hair on the top of his head if he's pulling it out like that. You're 100% right. That's the last. If you're a Yankee fan, how can it not drive you crazy too? Where, Marcus Stroman is a decent pitcher, but you need a guy more reliable than that. To be honest, I would trust Luis Gil, or however you say his last name. I always call him Gil. I would trust him a lot more than Marcus Stroman at this point. So, and now that they got them in a big 3-0 hole right off the bat, it's not gonna be easy. Like we were saying, Eflin's tough. This isn't like you're facing the old Eflin that every once in a while the Mets would get a chance to beat up on when he was a young pitcher. This is a veteran pitcher now that knows how to get guys out at the highest level. And when you go through a full season, win double-digit games, and have an ERA around 3.5, you're doing a pretty damn good job. So the Yankees can't take anything lightly. And if they're gonna make a move today, this guy is gonna be behind it, though. Aaron Judge. We talked about obviously the season that Judge has had. 323, 56 home runs, 139 RBIs. It's like video game numbers, and especially when you factor in what a poor April he had. And you think about how most of that damage was done between May and August is just mind-boggling, to be honest. The guy has had one of the most incredibly productive seasons I can ever remember. Even in my opinion, it was even more impressive than the year he hit 62 home runs, which is just unbelievable. And then, he went prior to this last 15-game stretch that you could see in the bottom of the screen right now. He kind of went through a lull at the end of the year where he slowed down. Obviously, you can't be hot for the whole entire season, beginning to end. That's impossible. You're going to go through ebbs and flows. Judge hit a little bit of that ebb earlier this month, but boy, has he stepped out of it, man. The last 15 games, this is what we're talking about with Stroman. when the team needs you the most, Aaron Judge has come up and said, guys, get on my back. Last 15 games, 347, 5 home runs, 14 RBIs. He's basically driving in a run a game. And the Yankees need that, man. They need that production from the guy that lives in the heart of their lineup, Aaron Judge. And the only thing that they could ask this guy to do more, because you can't ask him to do any more in the regular season, but the only thing they could ask him to do more is carry this over in the playoffs, because the Yankees need red hot Aaron Judge in the playoffs in the worst way possible.
Yeah, exactly. He needs to live up. He needs to live up to that. He needs to be able to come up big in the playoffs, because that is where the money really is made. All right. But as far as I see it, when it comes, especially when I'm sure a lot of you Yankee fans would agree on this, when it comes to it, you can pretty much throw away all your stats in the regular season, because everything's gonna be on what you do in the playoffs.
Yeah, you're right, man. I mean, nobody really gave a crap about Pablo Sandoval until he turned around and hit 600 in the World Series. Then all of a sudden, everybody's like, "Hey, let's give Pablo Sandoval a lot of money," you know. So it's funny how the playoffs and everything like that can really enhance players. Even dating all back to, I remember when Shane Spencer came up from AAA for the New York Yankees in 1998, and he ripped it up in September, and then carried that over right in the playoffs in '98, hitting big home runs when it mattered. That's what the Yankees need now. They need Judge to carry that play over, and hopefully, if you're a Yankee fan, that wakes up at some point tonight. Because let's be honest, if they lose the game tonight and lose this series at Yankee Stadium, I still feel pretty good about them closing things out, because they do have the freaking Pittsburgh Pirates this weekend at home, who stink. And by the way, can you explain to me how in the final series of the year, when you want to be playing American League opponents, the genius commissioner of Major League Baseball has the Pittsburgh Pirates visiting the Yankees? Just stupid. How stupid is that, Dan?
Yeah, that is just stupid. All right, I just really think the last weekend of the season should be against divisional rivals. I just feel like if I was commissioner, I'd set it up like that. That's really what you want.
Divisional rivals, or at the very least, a National League opponent,
yeah,
or American League for the Yankees.
Yeah, but I just think something like that, if you could set it up like that, sets it up really good. Especially with TV ratings, when you got TV ratings, and when you got the early weeks of the NFL, it's just perfect money making, right? Getting people getting eyeballs on the TV.
Yeah, and you don't want a crappy series like this finishing out the season, because then you also, I mean, like tomorrow, let's take a look at Yankees Orioles tomorrow. This is a playoff level matchup right here. And, especially if the Orioles win the game tonight, this could once again determine if the Yankees win the division tomorrow. And it's going to be ace versus ace, iron sharpening iron tomorrow on the hill at Yankee Stadium. Two flame-throwing big righties going out there as the Orioles throw their ace Corbin Burns up there, 15-8 with a 2.95 ERA, going up against Garrett Cole, the Yankees' $300 million right-handed pitcher, 7-5, 3.67 ERA. Let's not forget that's in about a little less than half a season. He didn't really get to the big league level until the last week of June, so you have to give him credit for that. He's still 7-5, still looking like a pretty effective pitcher out there. And the Yankees are going to need that. They're not getting it from Marcus Stroman tonight, so they're going to need Garrett Cole going out there putting up zeros tomorrow, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing about this, about speaking of eyeballs, is this game a Yes Network broadcast? It's got to make sure. Good.
Well, tomorrow's Thursday. It's got to be. I'm pretty sure it's on Yes.
Yeah. Then they did the right thing setting it up, making sure that this is on Yes and out an Amazon broadcast, because this broadcast you're not going to want to alienate people from.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right about that. That's going to be It's like you hit the nail on the head with the eyeballs line, because people are going to want to watch a matchup like that. Now, it's funny, the old John Sterling saying that's baseball, Susan. This is the type of game everybody expects to end 1-0. Now let's watch them go out there and make it like a 9-8 game or something like that. But either way, going into this game, really good matchup. Should be some good pitching tomorrow at Yankee Stadium. And hey, me and you are Met fans, but it looks like the Yankees winning the division is inevitable. And hey, best of luck to them. And the only time I'll be rooting against them, really, is if the Mets play them in the World Series. So let's hope that we don't have to get to that point. Let's hope the Mets are in the World Series against somebody else, right?
Yeah, exactly. Especially the fact with the way it'll drive up ticket prices on resale. If it's a Mets Yankees matchup, the prices on resale will be quadrupled.
Yeah, and let's be honest, we've been there, we've done that. We all saw the 2000 Subway Series, unless you're a little bit younger. But guys like me and Dan, we've been there, we've seen that song and dance before. I'd rather see the Mets play somebody else. I know Yankee fans would probably be salivating for it, but let's see them play somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to have that advantage. That I just feel just a little bit just doesn't. It's just watered down energy. Like I was at that.
Yeah.
I was at Game 3 of the World Series. I felt there was a lot of Met fan energy, but it just felt like we didn't have that Chase Stadium rocking kind of thing for Game 3.
Yeah, well, look, when you get to the World Series or something like that, the Super Bowl if you're playing football, the Stanley Cup, so on and so forth, when you get to that championship level, you want to soak that in your city by yourself. You don't want to share the spotlight with your brother team or, whatever the other team that's in town. That's why 2000 kind of, that was my first taste, because I was obviously a week old when the Mets won the World Series in 86. So 2000 was my first taste of seeing the Mets in the World Series, and sharing it with the Yankees sucked. It sucked. It was, you kind of knew they were going to lose the series. First off, if they played the Mariners, I would have felt a lot better about that, because that's who the Yankees beat in the ALCS, if you don't remember. And you're once again, you're just sharing the spotlight. And when you work all season to get to the playoffs and then win 2 rounds, back then it was 2 rounds, you win the LDS and you win the LCS and advance to the World Series, you want to soak that glory in all by yourself, and you don't want to share it with anybody, right?
Yeah, exactly. And of course, I think maybe 2015 was probably the first time you really got to know what that was like.
Yeah, you're right. It was. I mean, from a baseball perspective.
Yeah, exactly. And I gotta tell you, the 2015 Game 3 of that World Series just felt a different energy than Game 3 of the 2000 World Series.
You're right, because it was all Met fans.
Yeah, it was like 95% Met fans.
Yeah, and probably even higher than that, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think I saw some sprinkles of some Royals fans, but I just felt it was mostly Met fans. Like it just felt like Met fans dominated the building. There was just a different energy when David Wright hit that home run in Game 3 when I was there. That ballpark went nuts. Like I hear David Wright still speaks very highly of that moment to this day.
Yeah,
what it was like in the stadium that day.
That was, in my opinion, the best moment of that World Series. But there weren't too many bright spots in that World Series. But yeah, David Wright hitting that home run in the first inning doesn't get much better than that if you're a Met fan. So all right, we close the book on the Mets, close the book on the Yankees. We'll move on, talk a little football now for a bit as we get in the second half of the show here. Let's turn our attention right now to your New York Football Giants, Dan. And they were coming off a hell of a victory on Sunday afternoon. The Jets played on Thursday, so we'll get to that in a minute. But Sunday afternoon was a beautiful Sunday afternoon for the New York Giant fans, as the Giants went out, got their first win of 2024, beating the Browns 21-15. The Giants were 6.5-point road underdogs. This was their first road win since November 19th of last year. And, you felt every bit of it. The Giants wanted that game so bad. They played great. You got to give credit to Daniel Jones. You got to give credit to Devin Singletary. Even though he had a tough fumble in there, he still played tough. He kept going. The defense, once again, we've mentioned over and over again Brian Okereke's name. We've mentioned Dexter Lawrence's name, Kayvon Thibodeau. The Giants have had a bunch of contributors on this team so far. And how can you look at the game that we just saw this past Sunday and forget about Malik Neighbors? 7 catches, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns. Just a phenomenal first win of the season. And once again, they did it without a kicker because Graham Gano is hurt, and their backup kicker, it will be active for tomorrow against the Cowboys as well, missed his only attempt late in the game. So, Dan, coming off that first victory from a Giants fan, that had to be a beautiful thing to see, right?
Yeah, that was just a beautiful thing to see. I just felt like the Giants were on all cylinders that game. I mean, Malik Neighbors had so far the biggest game of his young career, hopefully the biggest of many big moments, because I feel like he's finally gotten into his comfort zone a little bit. Like something about it just looked like he was kind of like just getting there, getting up to speed, getting acclimated to the speed of the game and playing football with a lot of pressure to win, because he was like playing preseason before that. So now he finally knows us, like when it actually means something, and there's actually something on the line, and he finally showed what he could do, and somehow it made Daniel Jones look good that game. Like somehow Daniel Jones finally didn't overthrow the ball or underthrow it. I see that so many times with Daniel Jones underthrowing it. I even noticed it, and I was even getting nervous when I was seeing it that time earlier during the summer when I'm watching the Giants practice, seeing Daniel Jones underthrowing it. I was seeing a lot of underthrows like this. Oh, is this going to be another one of those frustrating years? But this week just feels like a 180 from weeks 1 and 2, and we need to keep up that momentum, keep up that mojo.
Yeah, and Dan, let's not forget, there was so much made about Aaron Rodgers and the Achilles injury last year and how he went down and it killed the Jets season and everything, that a lot of people forget that Daniel Jones had a very severe injury when he got hurt, whatever it was. I think it was the week before the Jets game that they played last year, the Jets and the Giants last year. So that would make it late October. So he had his injury about 6 or 7 weeks after Aaron Rodgers' injury. And, everybody was kind of just expecting him to come back in training camp and look like, a completely healthy, ready to go Daniel Jones. And obviously there had to be a lot of rust shaken off. You can't blame the kid. And finally, his offensive line is looking a little bit better. He's got a running game that's working. And who would have thought he's got a weapon in wide receiver in Malik Neighbors. And guess what? Finally, he's starting to look like the Daniel Jones that the Giants thought they were getting when they selected him number 6 overall. Now, Daniel Jones is one of those quarterbacks that kind of needs everything to go right to be effective, and that's not a knock at him. That's just the type of quarterback he is. He has limitations. And if you have a really good offensive head coach like Brian Daboll, you can mask those limitations. And I think that's exactly what Brian Daboll did on Sunday. And hey, it was just enough for the Giants to edge out the Browns in Cleveland. The Giants, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they need to do. They need to have this offense around. They just need to have this offense built around the abilities of Daniel Jones and the strengths of it, and really use that to their advantage. We saw this a lot heavily during the Bill Parcells era. They were really good at that, and they need to do this. And if they can keep this up, maybe Daniel Jones could pull off a Phil Simms. You look back at the Giants' history, people were starting to have had doubts on Phil Simms after his kind of first 6 years or so, but eventually it got to the point where he was able to make his. Well, not only was he able to do this, he was the first to ever say this, to say, "I'm going to Disney World." That's what we need to have. That's that's what I hope we'll get this if we keep this up. That's what you want to hope. You want to see if you're a Giants fan. You want to see it, and I can tell you, if that ever turns out, whether it's this year, maybe following year, whatever. If that's how this story goes for Daniel Jones, I will apologize for everything I've ever said all of this season.
Yeah.
If that's what we see, if I all of a sudden, if it gets to the point where I'm seeing a commercial, Daniel Jones, he's saying he's going to Disney World, I will because you know what that means. If you see that commercial already, you don't need the explanation now. You know exactly what that means. If you see a
Yep.
football player doing that commercial, I will
Mhm.
apologize for everything I said about Daniel Jones if that happens. Just to let you know.
Well, that makes sense. You definitely would owe Daniel Jones an apology if he ever gets that far. And even if he doesn't, hey, look, even if he doesn't win a championship and he doesn't ascend to the Eli Manning or Phil Simms level of Giants quarterbacks, he could end up being looked at as a very good quarterback for the Giants, whether they win a championship or not. Kerry Collins was a quarterback that hung around for the Giants for a few years, and he's well remembered because he got them to a Super Bowl. He didn't win, but he was an effective quarterback when he was out there. And I feel like Daniel Jones could kind of fall into that same category, even if he doesn't win a championship. But yeah, I mean, and look, that road to see where Daniel Jones is going to be on that stratosphere of giant quarterbacks starts tomorrow night. Me and you are recording this on Wednesday night for our Patreon members, but everybody else is seeing this on Thursday, which means that this game is now tonight. And the 1-2 New York Football Giants taking on the also 1-2 Dallas Cowboys on Thursday Night Football, 8:15 p.m. Gigantic game, no pun intended, for both teams because look, you don't want to fall to 1-3. Is 1-3 a death sentence? No, but do your percentages of making the playoffs drop dramatically if you lose this game? Oh hell yeah! To quote the great Stone Cold Steve Austin, hell yeah! You gotta win this game if you want to be considered in the playoff hunt, or you're going to spend the next 5-6 weeks digging yourself out of a hole.
Yeah, exactly. I just badly hope to see the Giants win this. All right. I know too many Cowboys that get freaking at work. I know freaking Cowboy fans who are at work, and I see these freaking Cowboy fans that always troll me on social media. I'm sure there's plenty of them that troll my brother on the West Coast, who's a Giants fan. I'm in Texas. I got a brother in West Coast, but I also got one in Texas. He's also a Giants fan. I got a brother who lives in Cowboys territory. I'm sure he would love to finally be able to just brag on them and just be able to have a victory on them.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it, Dan. And there really haven't been too many victories over the Cowboys lately. That's why their fans have been getting so up in your face and greedy, if you will, as the Giants have now lost 6 straight games and 13 of their last 14 to the Dallas Cowboys. Their last win, January 3rd, 2021, which was the season finale of that 2020, god-awful COVID season. So, it's been a long time since the Giants have been able to hang in there with the Cowboys. And let's not forget, the Giants were outscored 89-17 by the Cowboys last year. They lost 49-17 in the last game and lost 40-0 in the opener. So the Giants really have to be extra motivated to go out there and A, have their defense shut down that Cowboy offense, and B, go out there and just get a damn victory, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just go out there and get that victory and I just want to have something I can celebrate about on Thursday because I know it's already. Unfortunately, it's going to be. Because of the rainout circumstance, the game got ran. I was going to have a 2-screen setup. I was going to have my one game on my TV and one game on the tablet. But it looks like it's going to be one game. But just because that game ran doesn't still stop me from yelling at the team. No one's safe from me yelling at the TV and wherever I'm watching the game on TV because it's still happening because I got one of my teams playing tomorrow. The Giants game Thursday, so there'll be plenty of yelling at the TV. And I just also want to remind you, since tomorrow's game, and then I know most of you may have jumped the gun when you see the thing Amazon. Just remember, in the New York area, it is available on TV. I believe I forget if it's 5 or not. I think it's
it's 5.
Channel 5.
Channel 5.
Yeah. Here in New York, you're at Channel 5 is also broadcasting this game. That's usually an Amazon exclusive because of the rules, the rules with the federal government and the NFL. The deal that all the games are involving local teams are available on TV in the area, so you don't have to worry about that. Fortunately, and I do know some Giant fans that are outside of the country that are out of state or wherever. Unfortunately, you're going to have to deal with Amazon and deal with the lag that happens. I'm sure you've seen. Is there still a lot of lag with Amazon these days with watching sporting events?
I don't even have Amazon. And by the way, if you don't have Amazon either, and you want to find a way to watch that, hit me up on Twitter, and I'll give you one of those websites that you can check it out on, because I got my ways of getting around the NFL's BS with Amazon.
Yeah, exactly. And I do want to hear from any of you who do have Amazon. Do hit me up. There's a few questions I want to ask about Amazon because I know they're doing this next year with NASCAR next year and the NBA. I want to ask if there's things like lag and are these games archived that I can watch them after they happen?
I believe they are archived.
Yeah. Because that's the thing. So I would have the equivalent of like when I've seen things on the same time as a NASCAR race, I'll watch a DVR. So I guess there is a thing that I can watch it later in the day or the day after it happens. So that's
true
to know. That I just want to make sure that they know that they have these things archived, that I'm not charged extra for these archives. If I have to do something like get Amazon for that portion of the NASCAR season that's Amazon exclusive, or in a case the Knicks are in the playoffs and I want to have access to the playoffs next year.
That's true.
2025.
That's true. And now
that stupid Amazon deal, which unfortunately Amazon has an unfair advantage in bidding these things because they run a supermarket practically.
That's
why
right.
They got the money. That's why they got the money to put together get these broadcast rights. It's because of their supermarket business.
All right, so let's close the book on the Giants there. The Giants get ready for the Thursday night game on Amazon against the Cowboys tomorrow. Big matchup early season for them. The Jets just had another big matchup for themselves last week on Thursday Night Football. Also a division matchup, as the Jets, who improved to 2-1, beat the Patriots, dropped them to 1-2. And boy, the backtracking from people all week after the Jets pounded the crap out of the Patriots, which, by the way, was the most lopsided Jets victory over New England since my 14th birthday. I'm 37 years old, about to be 38 next month. And it's been since my 14th birthday, when I was in 8th grade, that the Mets blew out the Patriots this bad. It was a 34-17 win, quarterbacked by Vinny Testaverde, and have punched in a couple of touchdowns from the great Hall of Famer Curtis Martin back then in 2000. But the Jets were able to replicate that dominance on Thursday night and even take it to another level. As holy crap, man. I mean, Dan, you have had the privilege as a Giants fan to watch some pretty damn good quarterback play under Eli Manning's tenure with your team. Me as a Jet fan, haven't really gotten anything close to that for pretty much my entire life. Probably no Jet fan has seen something like what Jet fans saw on Thursday since the days of Joe Willie Namath, going back to the 60s and early 70s. But Aaron Rodgers was surgical with his precision on Thursday night last week, Dan, as he dominated the Patriots with in every facet you can imagine. 27 of 35, 281 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and it was even better than that. He kind of at the end of the game, they kind of leaned on the run to kill the clock. The Jets held the ball for 40 minutes. The Patriots only held the ball for 20. The Jets absolutely dominated, and they needed to. And they got everybody in on the action. You had Garrett Wilson with the big touchdown catch, even though he didn't have that big a day overall. 5 catches for 33 yards. He did get in the end zone, and you have to remember, everybody is double covering Garrett Wilson right now. When they start to respect the other weapons the Jets have, like Breece Hall and Alan Lazard making himself an actual target, maybe this kid Malachi Corley, among others, they're going to stop doubling Garrett Wilson and trying to take him out solely. But, in the meantime, he's going to have to fight for every yard. And that's exactly what he did on Sunday. And, it's not going to get any easier on this coming, or on Thursday, I said, but it's not going to get any easier this coming Sunday as the Jets are playing the Broncos. The Broncos aren't very good, but they do have a pretty damn good secondary led by the great Patrick Surtain. So, Dan, before we move on to the Broncos, what did you think of the Jets' absolute dominance on Thursday night against the Patriots?
Well, I was thinking that you just got to be. You must have been celebrating seeing this. Like you would be like. I don't think you ever felt that great as a Jets fan that you probably did see that game on Thursday. Like you were just probably really relieved that you just saw you had just seen an easy of a victory, what you were hoping for 2 years ago during the offseason when Aaron Rodgers was signed by the Jets. You're actually getting to see it.
Exactly. It was like, look, I play Madden, I've seen and I've played with Aaron Rodgers as the Jet quarterback even last year after he got hurt and before, and this year before the season started, so I've seen in my game and everything like that Rodgers do it. I've dreamed of seeing things like that, but the first game against the Niners, disappointing, not because of Rodgers, but because of how the team played as a whole. Rodgers seemed like he was shaking the rust off and he looked good overall, but the team didn't. Week 2 against the Titans, different story, as Rodgers started to look better, feel more comfortable, especially in the pocket. And we didn't really see him move too much outside the pocket, but he was able to. At 17-17, the Jets got the ball back with under 5 minutes left, drove right down the field, took the lead, and the win 24-17. They carried that over into the win 4 days later on Thursday, and Rodgers just was unstoppable. And let's not also forget that this is the first time the Jets have won twice in 4 days, meaning Sunday and Thursday, since 2010, which, by the way, was the last time they made the playoffs. So, if you ask me, that's a good sign, right?
Yeah, everything's pointing at a good sign. They need to keep up whatever they did on Thursday. That's what they need to continue to do from here on out. If they continue on that, they're making a playoffs. And I think if the Jets make the playoffs, they could easily be one of the formidable opponents.
No doubt about it. Especially if they get lucky enough to give themselves like home field advantage or something like that, right?
Yeah, and I can tell you, if they at least get to the Super Bowl, I'm going to start to really suspect some cold conspiracy on the Super Bowl logo colors.
Well, that was taken out last year because I forget what everybody was thinking it was going to be the Ravens because it was purple, but I forget who ended up. It was the Chiefs and somebody else on the Niners last year.
It was the Chiefs and 49ers, but I remember even that when they're doing the whole local conspiracy thing before, when it was still debunked. I saw a couple of people saying, "Oh, I see green in that logo, next year's Super Bowl logo." I saw a couple of people say that.
Yeah, but the people who are obsessed with the color of the Super Bowl logo, they need a better hobby because that's ridiculous. I'm sure the NFL probably has a preference. The NFL would love to see the Jets in the Super Bowl. They would love that because of the attention it would get, not only from Aaron Rodgers being in there, but for it being the Jets' first Super Bowl appearance in 56 years? So it's been a long time coming. So it wouldn't surprise me. And maybe they go all green. Maybe we get a Jets-Eagles Super Bowl this year, which would be probably pretty annoying for every Giants fan, right?
Well, I think more the Eagles part than anything. I think.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I just feel like that. I don't know. It's like weird with me during football during this Giants rivalry because I go through it all the time, just 162 games, with the Yankees fans and everything, and then hockey. It's a lot of games, so you go through that with the Owls fan. But it just, I guess during the winter, I just get kind of literally. I guess this burst of energy is relief that just rest it up until next season because I'm already going to deal with it as hockey season gets to the full swing and then baseball season. So it's just kind of a different it's a different energy. But yeah, it's just something that's going to be weird. And I can tell you, this would be probably the first time you'd find me at a parade that didn't involve a team I'm a fan of if that happened. Because regardless of whether the Giants are in a parade or not, if your Jets have won a Super Bowl, I'll be there volunteering to film all the highlights, everything of your reaction. I am going to.
It would basically just be me drunkenly crying in the streets of Manhattan. That's what what it would be.
Yep, exactly. That's what I'd be filming. That. And probably you'd be having a couple of more Antonovich before you made the short walk to the Woodside Station. I know, like the law, you probably have quite a bit of Donovans, which I guess we could unofficially say is the official celebration spot of BZIP.
No doubt about it, Dan. And let's hope that maybe there'll be some Jet fans celebrating there this Sunday. But, I hear a lot of Jet fans acting like this Broncos game is going to be a slam dunk. Now, look, do the Broncos have a rookie quarterback the Jets defense could absolutely destroy? No doubt about it. The Jets defense, even without Haason Reddick, which we're never going to talk about because it's so ridiculous, the most insane holdout in the history of sports, by the way. But when you have, a rookie quarterback against that defense, you can have a lot of fun with that guy. But let's not forget, the Denver Broncos just went into Tampa Bay, who, was a playoff team last year. They looked pretty damn good the first couple of weeks of the season this year. Baker Mayfield has that team cooking. They have a pretty decent defense, and they got smacked down 26-7 by the Denver Broncos at home this past Sunday. So you cannot sit here and tell me that the Denver Broncos game, I mean, it could end up being a blowout. But what I'm saying is you can't go into this game expecting it to be an easy win. You have to fight tooth and nail for this game and make sure you beat the crap out of the Denver Broncos.
Yep, exactly. That's what the Jets need to do. And I got to say about this whole Reddick thing, I think regardless of how this whole Reddick thing ends up, I think this will be a future lesson to anyone when they make these trades in the future for NFL teams. They're going to really pay attention to this one, how this one turned out.
Well, the thing is, Dan, I would agree with you under most circumstances, but the Patriots just traded Matt Judon at the end of training camp in the same exact contract circumstances. They traded their middle linebacker, Matt Judon, to the Atlanta Falcons for a third-round pick. And Matt Judon, see, this is why you can respect a guy like Matt Judon. And look, the Jets, in my opinion, made a big mistake too. But Haason Reddick is a fool for a lot of reasons. Matt Judon was traded to the Falcons, and when he reported, everybody was like, oh, are you going to hold out for your contract? And he said, no, I have to go on the field and prove to the team that just traded for me that I deserve it. I haven't done anything in an Atlanta Falcons uniform, and I want to earn it. Now, that's a guy you want on your team. Haason Reddick, who is an idiot at this point, he was due to make $14.5 million this year, Dan. He's already forfeited $8 million of that and 3 game checks. And now it'll be a 4th game check he's given up on Sunday. I mean, okay, if you get, let's hope at some point they come to an agreement and get him in here, because if the Jets are going to go on a deep playoff run, they're going to need him. But, you are only due to make $14 million this year, and you just gave up $8 million of it. Who is going to want to pay this guy next year? You know what I mean? He's only hurting himself.
Yeah, exactly. You are setting. If he's doing this, he is setting himself up badly for a situation that you might be seeing that you may have seen. I don't know. Did you ever see this ESPN 30 for 30 documentary titled Broke? You ever saw that documentary?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, this documentary is definitely worth a watch. Just seeing these football players really give an insight into what happens, and it's just, I don't know why. It doesn't seem like I never got why the heck all these NFL players always make that mistake that puts themselves in that situation. I don't know what it is. I've seen, and then as we saw in the documentary, there were people in various sports do this, but I noticed a trend, and it's happening a lot with the NFL and NBA guys putting themselves in that situation.
Yeah, it's weird, man. You think that these guys, especially after seeing what happened with Le'Veon Bell a few years ago, where he basically destroyed his career by sacrificing a year in the hopes that he got paid. Man, I hope he saved a lot of money out of what the Jets paid him, because he got cut pretty quick. He didn't get every dollar because, a lot of it wasn't guaranteed. So the Jets cut him and that money was gone. And, now he's retired, and he went out with a whimper in the NFL. And you just got to hope. Obviously, the position that Haason Reddick plays has a much longer shelf life in the NFL than a running back does. But, come on, man. No, I cannot see somebody going out there and paying this guy big money next year if he doesn't play this year. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to have to report at some point. And I just can't believe it hasn't happened already. And let me not act here like I'm saying Haason Reddick is 100% in the wrong. Do I think Haason Reddick is an asshole? Yes. I think he is very stupid for the way he's handled this. But do I think the Jets are blame-free too? No, they're not. Joe Douglas could have just paid Bryce Huff, and you wouldn't have had to be in this situation now. You could have paid the guy you had in your building for the last 4 years, but they chose not to. They let him walk. You could have had Jadeveon Clowney, but you tried to bargain him down. That didn't work. And then you said, hey, let's trade for Haason Reddick. And I said to myself, wow, that's a genius move. They trade for Reddick. They're going to pay him. He's going to be here. Boom. That's a win. I'll take that over Bryce Huff. But boy, am I an idiot, because I gave Joe Douglas too much credit. I said it on the show once, and I'll say it 1,000 times. Joe Douglas giveth, Joe Douglas taketh away. And with that, I think that closes the book on our football talk. Dan, one more thing before we get out of here today. For the show, we've had a lot to get into. I do want to just close with a couple of seconds on the New York Rangers. What a game yesterday, Dan. I don't know if you got a chance to see any of it, but I by chance was watching it as the Rangers ended up improving to 2-0. They have an epic comeback. They were down 4-1 with about 5 minutes left in the third period and scored 5 consecutive goals to win the game 6-4. What a game yesterday, and maybe it's a good sign of things to come for this Rangers team.
Yeah, I gave it a watch after work. It was on the same time as the Met game, so I had it on record. So yeah, I gave it a watch, and that the Rangers just looked good. They just showed a lot of fight in them during it. Granted, it's a preseason game, but they seem to just really show a lot of fight going into the season. The other thing, I'm kind of getting nervous. I'm hoping this doesn't affect going into regular season. Panarin's in a day-to-day situation, and Lindgren once again. I don't know why he makes these big plays, but sometimes he gets hurt a lot.
Well, that game against the Islanders overall was scary last night because you saw Philip Hedl take a bad hit and go down, and I wanted I was ready to lead a group of Ranger fans with torches to take down the Islanders at UBS. For when they came back to UBS after that hit on Hedel, and then Hedel came back out. He had to basically be carried off the ice. He comes back, so you're feeling good about that. He ends up scoring a goal after that too. And yeah, you're right. Panarin got banged up late in this game, but luckily, like you said, he's day to day, so they don't think it's going to be really bad. But the big injury was to Ryan Lindgren, who they said, like you said, lower body injury, is expected to miss a few weeks. And that's not a good sign. That means it's probably stretching into the regular season. So starting off the year, they're already going to be down a defenseman. We're already down a defenseman from last year as the Rangers ended up losing a couple of guys. And now Zach Jones is having to step in. I have to say, though, you said you rewatched the game last night. I saw a lot of good things out of Zach Jones last night, and him being on the power play looked pretty good too. I believe he scored 2 goals in the game last night too. So, man, if the Rangers could get some production out of a guy like Zach Jones next year or this year, that's going to be a big contributing factor to this team's success.
Yeah, I feel like Zach Jones is another one that I feel like is like flying under the radar, but I feel he's going to have some big moments this year. I just somehow my gut feeling says he's gonna have these breakthrough moments that are just gonna really play a factor and could play a factor in the difference between us getting to where we want to be. And
yeah, no doubt about it.
I just feel like if we get to that, and I feel like once again we're going into a season with a lot of pressure on our shoulders to get us. It's Stanley Cup or bust with this team.
Yeah, and let's be honest, Dan. A couple of years ago, everybody really enjoyed, including myself, that Last Dance biography that came out, basically, whatever it was, documentary about the 97-98 Chicago Bulls, where they knew after that season, everybody, Phil Jackson, Dennis Rodman, Michael Jordan, they knew everybody was going to be gone after that season, and it would be a rebuild for the Chicago Bulls going forward after that. This is the last dance for the New York Rangers. Now, it's not going to be as dramatic as that, where, I'm sure the big guys, they'll figure out a way to keep Shesterkin here. Most likely Peter Laviolette will still be here. Kreider, Zibanejad, all the big names we know. However, this team will get a major facelift after this season if they don't win a Stanley Cup, and that's it. I'm not like, if they get to the Stanley Cup and lose, it's not going to matter. Unless they win a Stanley Cup, this team is going to have a major facelift started by Jacob Trouba, the captain, being traded and his $8 million cap hit. He should have been traded this past season, but due to a whole bunch of contributing factors, Chris Drury was not able to execute that trade. It completely destroyed the Rangers offseason, as the only guy they were able to acquire really this offseason was Riley from the Pittsburgh Penguins, the right wing that's going to step in, and he should add a nice veteran presence to this team. But let's be honest, me and you were sitting here talking about names a lot bigger than Riley, and none of that came to fruition. So we have to sit here and hope that this last dance of this Rangers group that we've seen for the last 3 or 4 years, this last dance hopefully will be, pumped up by a good trade deadline again, as Drury's done the last couple of years. But this is it. Cup or bust this year. We say that a lot. We've said that a lot of times in the past, but this year it's true. Cup or bust.
Yep, exactly. And they need to go all in at the trade deadline. If that's the case, they need to go all in at the trade deadline.
Yeah, no doubt about it. They have to find which is what they should have been doing this offseason, but thanks to Jacob Trouba's shitty contract, that was not possible. You can't pay a third look, and I like Jacob Trouba a lot more than some other Ranger fans do. He's a nice guy. He's a good captain. I got nothing bad to say about him from that front. But realistically, in a cap world, you cannot pay a third pair defenseman $8 million a year. It doesn't make any sense. You can't do that. You think about it, Adam Fox is making like 9.5 on the top pair, and you've got a third pair, which is your bottom line defenseman, making 8. You cannot do that. You cannot exist and live in a cap world in the NHL like that, and it's just untenable. And it's going to come to a head after this season now. So let's just keep our fingers crossed and they make this a memorable year for us Ranger fans. And Dan, with that, I think that's going to do it for us this week. Before we get out of here, do you have anything like to plug for yourself?
Sure, you got my Twitter account, Bobo103NYC, Instagram, Bobo118DK, and which is also the same username on Trends. YouTube, it's one word, Daniel Curlin. All your Bobo content there on YouTube, and also definitely subscribe to our Patreon because you'll guys get early access to tracks I minute. You also it's even definitely worth it, especially even if you already know what happened with all these games, to see that drunk show the first time you've ever seen an episode of Best Seat in the House podcast. You've seen me drunk on an episode of Best Seat in the House podcast, even though you've seen me in the mirror. You've never seen me drunk on Best Seat in the House podcast that you will see on that episode, by the way. So you definitely got to see that.
That's true. You get to see our good old friend Daniel Bobo Curlin under the influence of a little Grimace Punch over there at Citi Field, hanging out with Darren and the boys from the 7 line at their tailgate.
And by the way, good shout out to Darren. I don't know, but did my microphone pick up when he was saying hi to everyone?
Yeah, I mean, it was very low, but yeah, we could see him and hear him a little bit.
Yeah. Good shout out to everyone. I bet Darren and someone he's done a good job putting together all these Citi Field outings. They're taking part in those road outings. I mean, one of the most impressive from an MLB team when it comes to putting together a road outing like that. 7 line is second to none when it comes to putting away game outings, for getting a large group of fans of the visiting team to show up at an opponent's stadium like that. They're second to none in that, and I can tell you that they're great people. I even remember them from the beginning when they were selling these shirts. I remember there were people handing out these stickers, their website selling these shirts that said "Getting Shitty at City." I think I still have that shirt.
Very cool. Very cool. So, yeah, absolutely. Shout out to everybody over there doing their 7 line thing. Love those guys. And that was cool having him on there for a second this past week. And, yeah, with that, that's going to do it for the show this week, everybody. Thank you so much, everybody, for stopping by, as you always do. We always appreciate all the support. If you want to support us even more, you can check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/Best Seat in the House podcast. We have a free version on there. We got the pay version, which is only $5 a month. And as Dan mentioned earlier, you could get all those extra benefits with his YouTube channel and the great Bobo's Trackside Minute, which we just put out an episode yesterday. So thank you so much to everybody for checking that out. And if you haven't already, thank you for watching our show here. So everybody, that's going to do it for us. For Daniel Bobo Curlin, I'm Rob Kramer. This is the Best Seat in the House podcast. And we'll catch you next week, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Push the button, Frank.